In a small-town American police station, a young woman named Sarah sat across the detective. The room was bathed in a cold light, creating a tense atmosphere. Visibly shaken, Sarah was there to recount a chilling experience related to a Tinder date. "Let's start from the beginning, Sarah," said the detective. "Tell me about your evening with Daniel." Sarah began her story. She had met Daniel on Tinder, and after exchanging a few messages, they decided to meet. They agreed on a secluded parking lot for their date, a decision Sarah now deeply regretted. From the start, the meeting was unsettling. Daniel had been aggressive and insistent, demanding sexual relations despite Sarah's clear refusals. Things quickly escalated when he turned violent, striking her forcefully. Sarah described how, in a moment of sheer desperation, she managed to hit Daniel and escape. "But from the security cameras in the parking lot," interjected the detective, "we only see you entering and leaving your car. There's no sign of Daniel." Confused and terrified, Sarah stuttered, I don't know. He was there. He attacked me." The detective continued, revealing that her car was the only one in the parking lot that evening, and that there was no evidence of another vehicle or person. He also disclosed that, according to their records, Sarah had a history of mental disorders and self-harm. Tears in her eyes, Sarah listened as the detective suggested that the entire episode might have been a hallucination or a psychotic break. There were no signs of physical assault, and everything pointed to her being alone in the parking lot that night. Sarah's story ended with her under psychiatric observation, receiving treatment for her disorders. The interrogation and subsequent investigation left many questions unanswered. Had she been the victim of a real assault, or had her subconscious created an image of Daniel as a manifestation of her inner fears? Despite the evidence to the contrary, Sarah insisted she was telling the truth. A week later after the interrogation, an unexpected witness came forward to the police. This person claimed to have been someone in the car that night and described aggressive behavior by a man, corroborating Sarah's account. Investigators began to probe the new witness's claims. They discovered that the man described was a former police officer, dismissed for inappropriate conduct. Further investigation revealed that he had remote access to police surveillance footage and had tampered with the recordings. The ex-officer had replaced the footage from the night of the assault with recordings from previous days. The images showed Sarah's same car because, as it emerged, she frequently visited that parking lot to relax, a detail she hadn't mentioned to the investigators. It was also discovered that the assailant knew about Sarah's mental disorders because she had confided in him during their Tinder conversations. He had used this information to plan the attack, administering substances that made her confused and vulnerable, thereby lending credibility to the theory of a hallucination. With the new evidence and testimonies, the former police officer was arrested and charged with assault and tampering with evidence. The truth about the attack on Sarah finally came to light, bringing justice to the young woman and closing a dark chapter in her life. In a small American town, a mother, driven by an obsessive desire to find a companion for her son Jason, created a fake Tinder profile. Jason, a reserved young man with unusual tastes, seemed detached from the dating world. His mother, determined to solve this issue, began luring girls for him with false promises. A college student named Lisa, in search of love, stumbled upon Jason's profile. Intrigued by the conversation she believed she was having with him, she agreed to meet. The address led her to a secluded house, where she was greeted by Jason's mother with an ambiguous smile. Lisa was led to Jason's room, where his mother, under a pretext, locked the door, leaving her alone with her son. The room was strangely set up, resembling more of a horror movie set than a bedroom. Jason, with a vacant look, approached Lisa. Within minutes, the atmosphere turned into a nightmare. Jason revealed his dark side, inspired by the horror films he idolized. He showed Lisa torture instruments, excitedly talking about staging a scene of terror. Terrified, Lisa realized she had to escape to save her life. In a moment of extreme courage, Lisa threw herself out the window, landing painfully in the garden below. Injured, but determined to survive, she started running through the streets, desperately seeking help. Behind her, Jason and his mother pursued her, determined to prevent her from revealing what had happened. Fortunately, a passing truck driver noticed the scene. Sensing the danger, he stopped and let Lisa into his truck, driving her away from the threat. Still in shock, Lisa managed to tell her story to the driver, who took her directly to the nearest police station. When the officers investigated the address Lisa provided, they found the house empty. There was no trace of Jason or his mother, and it seemed they had vanished into thin air. Further investigations revealed that the house had been rented under the name of a non-existent person. Lisa's story became an unresolved mystery. The community was shaken by the possibility that Jason and his mother were still at large, potentially seeking new victims. In a coastal city in the United States, Ava, a popular social media influencer, matched on Tinder with someone she believed to be a charming man named Alex. However, Alex was actually a fake profile created by Rachel, a girl who was obsessed with Ava and consumed by jealousy over her popularity and success. Rachel had meticulously studied Ava's social media, learning her preferences and habits to craft the perfect profile to attract her. When Ava agreed to meet, Rachel planned the encounter in a secluded location, intending to harm her, perhaps even kill her. On the night of the date, Ava arrived at the agreed-upon spot, expecting to meet Alex. Instead, she was shocked to find Rachel, a girl she had only seen through social media, never in person. Rachel, disguising her identity with a fabricated story, tried to approach Ava, but Ava, being intuitive and suspicious, started asking specific questions that Rachel couldn't answer correctly. It was then that Ava realized something was deeply wrong. Before Rachel could enact her sinister plan, Ava managed to escape and called the police from her cell phone. The officers quickly arrived at the scene and arrested Rachel before she could harm Ava or herself. During the interrogation, the disturbing truth emerged. Rachel had previously lured other popular influencers on Tinder using fake profiles. She was obsessed with their fame and success, and her envy drove her to attempt to harm them. Investigators discovered evidence of previous plans and actions that had endangered the lives of other young women. Rachel was charged with stalking, attempted murder, and other serious offenses. Her arrest caused a stir in the online community and shed light on the hidden dangers lurking behind the facade of normality on social media. Ava, having narrowly escaped the assault, reflected on the perilous reality of online encounters and the need for constant vigilance. Her experience became a cautionary tale for those living a public life on social media, highlighting that behind every profile could lurk a dark intention. In a bustling American city, Lena, a young programmer with a passion for art and technology, was exploring Tinder in search of a special connection. She matched with an intriguing profile named Theo, a digital artist who seemed to share many of her interests. After a series of stimulating conversations, Lena and Theo decided to meet at a trendy cafe in the heart of the city. The meeting started well, with both sides sharing ideas about art, technology, and city life. Theo then appeared to be the ideal partner for Lena, intelligent, creative, and charming. As the evening progressed, Theo showed Lena some of his digital artwork. The images were complex, rich in symbolism, and intricately detailed. Lena was fascinated, but she couldn't help noticing a recurring theme in the works: female figures shrouded in shadows, their expressions filled with sadness and fear. Intrigued and slightly concerned, Lena asked Theo about the meaning behind these images. Theo smiled enigmatically, explaining that they were part of a personal project called The Shadow Behind the Avatar, an exploration of the duality between online identity and reality. The evening concluded, and Lena returned home, but she couldn't shake off the images and words of Theo. She decided to do some online research on him and his artistic project. What she discovered left her speechless. The women depicted in Theo's works were all Tinder users who had disappeared in recent months. Frightened, Lena immediately contacted the police. Investigators began probing into Theo, uncovering that he was an artist leading a double life. Behind the digital nomad's facade, he harbored a dark obsession for his muses met on Tinder, whom he transformed into subjects of his disturbing works. The police arrested Theo as he was preparing another one of his pieces, saving a potential victim. The investigations revealed that Theo had created an entire gallery of works based on women he had seduced and then manipulated, leaving behind a trail of mysterious disappearances. Lena, narrowly escaping a similar fate, became an advocate for online safety. In a large city in the United States, Melanie, a young and ambitious attorney, was delving into the world of Tinder, seeking a break from her stressful professional life. She was drawn to an intriguing profile of a man named Adrien, who exuded a mysterious charm and an adventurous life. After a brief exchange of messages, they decided to meet at a modern downtown venue known for its intriguing mirror illusions and optical art. Adrien was both charming and enigmatic, with a talent for telling captivating stories that captured Melanie's imagination. As the evening progressed, Adrien invited Melanie to explore a unique art installation in the venue, a mirror maze. Inside the labyrinth, the atmosphere turned surreal, with reflections and angles, creating a world of endless illusions. Melanie felt as if she had entered another universe, far removed from everyday reality. Adrien led Melanie through the maze, but at a certain point, he mysteriously vanished, leaving her alone among the corridors of mirrors. Melanie began to feel disorientated and nervous, unable to distinguish reality from the illusions created by the reflections. While searching for the exit, Melanie started noticing strange figures reflected in the mirrors. They were not just reflections of herself or other people in the maze, but appeared to be images of unknown women, some with expressions of fear or despair. After what seemed like an eternity, Melanie finally found the exit. Outside the labyrinth, there was no trace of Adrien. Confused and frightened, she decided to head home immediately. The next day, Melanie researched Adrien and discovered he was known for creating art installations based on illusions and mirror games. However, what disturbed her the most was the discovery that several women who had been seen with him had disappeared without a trace in recent months. Melanie reported her experience to the police, who began investigating Adrien. However, every trace of him seemed to have vanished, like an illusion in his mirror maze. The police could not find concrete evidence against him, and his identity remained shrouded in mystery. Melanie's story with Adrien became an unresolved enigma, a tale that quickly spread throughout the city. It became a symbol of the hidden perils behind online encounters, a reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than any fiction. In a bustling American metropolis, Melanie, a young and ambitious attorney, was seeking a break from her routine through Tinder. She stumbled upon the profile of a man named Adrien, known in the community as a kind and respectable person. Their messages were pleasant and lighthearted, and they decided to meet at a distinctive bar, famous for its artistic installation, a mirror maze. At the meeting, Adrien presented himself as the affable and charismatic man Melanie had anticipated. During the evening, Adrien suggested exploring the mirror maze, a unique attraction of the venue. Intrigued, Melanie agreed. Inside the maze, surrounded by endless reflections, the atmosphere grew more intimate. It was then that Adrien revealed a side of himself Melanie had not anticipated. He confessed to being ridiculed and rejected multiple times on Tinder, experiences that had triggered growing resentment in him. Overwhelmed by sudden emotion, Adrien attempted to undress Melanie against her will. Frightened and confused, Melanie managed to escape, running through the maze of mirrors to the exit, with Adrien following her, alternating between screams and sobs. Once safe, Melanie contacted the police. However, the authorities considered the incident a minor offense, given Adrien's reputation and the absence of evident physical violence. No significant legal actions were taken against him. 3 days later, Melanie received a disturbing message from Adrien. He confessed to being obsessed with her, declaring he would follow her everywhere. The message turned an unfortunate encounter into a constant threat. Prompted by Adrien's unsettling message, Melanie delved deeper into investigating the situation. As an attorney, she had access to a network of contacts and resources, unavailable to most. She decided to use these resources to better understand Adrien's situation and behavior. Melanie spoke with colleagues, friends, and even acquaintances in cybersecurity. She sought to discover whether Adrien's behavior was a recurring pattern or an isolated incident. Investigations revealed that, surprisingly, Adrien had no history of aggressive or disturbing behavior. He was rather known as a quiet and reserved person. Through conversations, a sad reality emerged. Adrien had been repeatedly humiliated and ridiculed on Tinder and in other social contexts. These continual rejections and humiliations had left a deep emotional scar on him, feeling resentment that had manifested in that desperate act in the mirror maze. Melanie realized the episode in the maze was not an act of pure malice, but rather an expression of Adrien's deep inner suffering, finding an outlet in a moment of weakness and frustration. Despite this understanding, Melanie could not ignore the terror and trauma she had experienced. Adrien's threat to follow her everywhere remained a source of constant anxiety and fear. In a small town in the United States, a young librarian with a passion for literature was searching on Tinder for someone who shared her interests. She matched with Ethan, an intellectual-looking man with a fondness for classic books. After exchanging messages filled with literary quotes, they decided to meet. They arranged to meet at a quaint, cozy cafe, the perfect spot for two book lovers. Ethan arrived carrying an antique version of Pride and Prejudice, Claire's favorite book. The meeting started well, with discussions about various authors and works. However, as the conversation unfolded, Claire began to notice something unsettling about Ethan. Every time he spoke about characters in the books, his comments turned dark and disturbing. Initially curious, Claire started to feel uneasy. Ethan then suggested going to his house to see his collection of rare books. Despite her reservations, Claire accepted, driven by curiosity. Ethan's house was a labyrinth of bookshelves, but the atmosphere was oppressive. Taking advantage of a moment of distraction from Ethan, Claire managed to flee the house. She ran through the deserted streets until she found refuge at a nearby police station. She recounted her story to the officers, who immediately began investigating Ethan. The investigations revealed that Ethan had previously had unsettling encounters with women he met on Tinder, all fitting Claire's profile. He was obsessed with literary female figures and sought to recreate these dynamics in real life. Ethan was arrested for harassment and menacing behavior towards Claire and other women.